The morning started like any other in the small town of Pine Valley, Montana. The autumn leaves danced in the cool breeze, and the mountains stood tall against the clear blue sky. Nothing suggested that this ordinary Tuesday would change the course of human history forever. Tawny sat at his bedroom window, his bowl of cereal forgotten as he watched the strange lights in the sky. At first, he thought they were shooting stars, but shooting stars didn't move in perfect formation. The 10-year-old boy grabbed his father's old binoculars from the shelf and focused on the lights that were getting bigger and bigger. "Mom," he called out, "there's something weird in the sky." "That's nice, dear," his mother answered from downstairs, too busy with her morning routine to pay attention. "Don't forget your homework before you go playing." Tommy shrugged. Adults never believe the important stuff anyway. He watched as the lights grew from tiny dots to massive shapes that blocked out the sun. They were ships, real spaceships, just like in the movies he wasn't supposed to watch, but did anyway when his parents were asleep. The first ship landed in old Mr. Wilson's cornfield. It was huge, at least 3 times bigger than the town's water tower, and shaped like a giant arrow pointing down. Its surface was covered in strange markings that glowed with a soft purple light. More ships followed, each landing in a perfect circle around the first one. Tommy didn't run or scream like the other kids in the neighborhood. Instead, he grabbed his emergency backpack, the one he had packed with supplies for his adventures, and climbed down the tree next to his window. His parents always said he was too curious for his own good, but how could anyone stay away when actual aliens were landing? Hidden behind old Mr. Wilson's tractor, Tommy watched as the ships opened. Tall figures in shining armor marched out in perfect rows. They carried weapons that looked like they came straight from his video games, and their helmets had glowing red visors that swept back and forth across the field. "Primitives," one of them said in a deep mechanical voice that Tommy could somehow understand. "This will be easier than taking candy from a baby." Tommy frowned. He hated when adults used that phrase. Taking candy from a baby wasn't easy at all. His little cousin had proved that last Christmas with a grip so strong it could rival a robot's. The tallest alien, wearing armor with extra fancy purple stripes, stepped forward. "I am Commander Gray of the Dominion Fleet. We have conquered 1,000 worlds, and Earth will be no different. Begin the occupation. Remember, these humans are simple creatures. Their technology is basic, their weapons primitive. This will be the easiest conquest in our history." Tommy couldn't help but giggle. These aliens thought they were so smart, but they had landed right in the middle of his favorite playground. This was where he tested all his traps and tricks, where he had once caught 5 bullies in a single afternoon using nothing but rope and his mom's old bed sheets. The alien soldiers spread out, their weapons ready. One of them stepped right onto the patch of ground Tommy had prepared last week for his latest project. A network of tunnels and pit traps he had spent all summer digging. There was a loud crack, followed by a surprised yelp in an alien language. The soldier disappeared into the ground, his fancy armor covered in mud and old leaves. His teammates rushed to help, only to slip on the wet grass and fall into more hidden holes. "What is this?" Commander Gray shouted. "Our sensors detected no defenses in this area." Tommy pressed his hands against his mouth to stop from laughing out loud. The aliens had super advanced technology, but they didn't know about the simple joys of digging holes and covering them with sticks and leaves. As chaos spread among the alien ranks, Tommy slipped away through his secret path in the cornfield. His mind was already racing with ideas. If these aliens wanted to invade his town, they were going to learn why his mom called him the Little Devil and why the neighborhood kids both loved and feared his elaborate pranks. This wasn't going to be like taking candy from a baby at all. It was going to be much more fun. Commander Gray stood in the command center of his ship, his red eyes glowing with anger as he watched the replay of his soldiers falling into primitive holes. 3 hours had passed since their landing, and they had already become a joke among the invasion fleet. "Send in the observer units," he ordered, his voice echoing in the metallic chamber. I want to know everything about our enemy's defenses. No more surprises. The observer units were the pride of the Dominion fleet. Soldiers trained to become invisible using the most advanced stealth technology in the galaxy. 5 of them activated their cloaking shields and moved out into the field, their footsteps silent as shadows. Meanwhile, Tommy sat in his treehouse, munching on cookies he had stolen from the kitchen. Through his binoculars, he watched the aliens trying to pull their vehicles out of the mud pits he had dug last month for his medieval castle moat project. His mom had been angry about all the holes in the yard, but now they were saving Earth. Sort of. Scanning area for defensive systems, one of the observer units reported, standing invisibly just below Tommy's treehouse. Nothing but primitive wooden structures and simple tools. Tommy dropped a cookie crumb. It landed right on the invisible alien's helmet with a tiny ping. The alien looked up, but all he saw was a small human child playing in a crude wooden box in a tree. "Commander, I have visual on a young human," the observer reported. "The creature appears to be consuming some form of sustenance while watching our forces. Should I eliminate it?" "No," Commander Gray replied through the radio. "Study it. These humans are primitive, but there must be something we're missing. No species can be this simple and still cause us such trouble." Tommy could hear their voices clearly. They weren't very good at whispering. He smiled and reached into his backpack, pulling out a bag of flour. His mom always said he shouldn't play with food, but this wasn't playing. This was science. He accidentally spilled some flour over the edge of his treehouse. The white powder fell through the air, covering the invisible aliens below. Suddenly, 5 white ghostly shapes appeared in his yard. "We've been compromised," one of them shouted, trying to brush off the flour, but only making it worse. "The human child has detected us." "Impossible." Commander Gray's voice crackled through their radios. "Our stealth technology is perfect. No primitive sensors could detect it." Tommy laughed and grabbed his super soaker water gun, the one he had filled with his sister's glitter hairspray. The aliens looked up at the sound, their flour-covered forms now perfect targets. "Hey, aliens," Tommy called out. "Want to play a game?" Before they could respond, he pulled the trigger. Pink and purple glitter sprayed all over their expensive stealth suits. The aliens tried to run, but they slipped on the flour-covered grass, crashing into each other like clowns at a circus. "Our stealth systems are malfunctioning," one shouted. "The particulates are interfering with the cloaking field." "The human child," another cried out. "It's not just watching, it's hunting us." Tommy watched as the sparkly, flour-covered alien scrambled away, tripping over his toy trucks and remote control cars he had left scattered in the yard. They looked like disco balls running through a snowstorm. From his ship, Commander Gray watched the feed from his soldiers' helmets with growing horror. How could their most elite stealth units be defeated by powder and sparkly liquid? What kind of training did human children receive to become such effective warriors? "Sir," one of his officers reported, "the other ships are requesting updates on our invasion progress." Commander Gray stared at the screen, watching his once proud observer units retreat, leaving a trail of glitter and flour in their wake. Tell them we're conducting a tactical analysis of the enemy's capabilities." Back in his treehouse, Tommy packed up his supplies. The aliens would probably send more soldiers soon, and he needed to prepare. He had a whole box of water balloons under his bed, and his chemistry set could make some really interesting smells. As he climbed down, he heard the alien commander's frustrated voice from their radios. "What kind of planet is this, where children are more dangerous than armies?" The afternoon sun beat down on the alien patrol as they marched through the woods behind Tommy's house. After the embarrassment with the observer units, Commander Gray had ordered a full sweep of the area. This time, he sent his most experienced soldiers, veterans of 100 conquered worlds. "Remember," the patrol leader said, "no matter what we find, it can't be worse than the razor beasts of planet X-45. They were wrong." Tommy watched them from behind a tree, trying not to laugh. He had spent the last hour setting up what he called his Home Alone special, named after his favorite movie that his parents still didn't know he had watched. The first alien stepped on a hidden rope. Nothing happened. The second alien stepped on another rope. Still nothing. "See," the patrol leader said, "these humans here." He never finished his sentence. Tommy pulled the main string, and chaos erupted. 20 old soup cans, filled with his sister's collection of craft glitter and tied to tree branches, dumped their sparkly contents onto the patrol. The aliens raised their weapons, but the glitter got into every crack of their armor. "My sensors are blinded," one soldier cried out. "Don't move," the patrol leader ordered. Too late. The confused aliens stumbled forward, triggering the second part of Tommy's trap. A series of garden hoses, connected to the sprinkler system, sprayed them with water mixed with soap. The ground, already covered in glitter, became as slippery as an ice rink. Advanced anti-gravity systems failing, another alien shouted as he slid face first into a tree. But Tommy wasn't done. As the aliens slipped and slid, they pulled more hidden ropes. Above them, several old bed sheets his mom had planned to throw away spread out between the trees. The wet aliens, now covered in glitter and soap, looked up just as Tommy's remote-controlled toy drone dropped his special mix. Flour, baby powder, and the itching powder he had saved from last year's joke shop visit. The aliens' screams echoed through the woods. Their high-tech armor, designed to stop laser blasts and plasma shots, had no defense against the cloud of itchy, sparkling mess that covered them. "Retreat," the patrol leader yelled, trying to run but sliding instead. "Fall back to base." Tommy watched as the mighty alien warriors crawled, slipped, and stumbled their way back to their ships, leaving a trail of glitter and powder that would make a unicorn jealous. In the command ship, Commander Gray received the patrol's report with growing disbelief. "Let me understand this," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Our elite patrol, veterans of the galactic wars, was defeated by sparkly dust and water." "Sir," one of the powder-covered soldiers tried to explain while scratching inside his armor, "the human child. It's not fighting fair. Our combat training never covered this." Commander Gray slammed his fist on his control panel. "We are the Dominion fleet. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. How can we be defeated by a small human using, what did you call it?" "Glitter, sir," the soldier said, still scratching, "and something the patrol leader called itching powder. It's everywhere. We can't get it out of our suits, and the decontamination units just make it sparkle more." From his hidden spot in the woods, Tommy gathered his supplies. The aliens would be back, probably angrier than ever. But he was ready. He had already started mixing mud with his mom's hair dye, the bright pink one she never used. His dad's old fishing nets were set up in the trees, and he had borrowed all the marbles from his collection. The aliens thought their first trap was bad. Tommy grinned as he drew his next plan in his secret notebook. They hadn't seen anything yet. As the sun began to set, the aliens in the command ship watched with horror as their elite patrol marched through the halls, leaving trails of sparkles everywhere they went. Some said they could hear a child's laughter in the distance, but no one dared to go check. The invasion of Earth wasn't going quite as planned. Commander Gray paced in his ship, watching multiple screens showing his defeated soldiers. In just one day, 3 patrols had gone missing. 2 had returned covered in something called slime, and one group refused to leave their ship, claiming they still had rainbow spots in their vision. The human child must have advanced technology, he insisted, studying a blurry image of Tommy climbing a tree. No primitive creature could cause this much chaos. Meanwhile, Tommy sat in his bedroom, surrounded by his favorite science books and nature documentaries. He had learned a lot from watching shows about army ants and spider webs. Now he was putting that knowledge to use. If it works for animals, he mumbled while drawing in his notebook, it should work for aliens. Outside, a new patrol approached cautiously. They had orders to capture the human child for study. Their weapons were set to stun, and their armor had been upgraded with extra shields. "The little beast won't trick us this time," the patrol leader whispered. "We're ready for anything." Tommy watched them through his binoculars and smiled. "No, you're not." The first alien stepped into the garden and immediately realized something was wrong. Thin strings crossed everywhere between the trees, almost invisible in the evening light. They looked like spider webs, but much bigger. "Don't touch the strings," the patrol leader ordered, but it was too late. One soldier brushed against a string, triggering Tommy's newest creation. Above them, dozens of plastic bags filled with his mom's leftover hair dye burst open. Purple, green, and hot pink liquid rained down, coating their armor in streaks of color. "Our shields," a soldier cried. "They're not stopping it." "Because it's not a weapon, silly," Tommy shouted from his hiding spot. "It's just hair dye." The aliens spun around, trying to spot him. In their confusion, they triggered more strings. This time, the strings released a cloud of baby powder mixed with his dad's old sneezing powder. "Can't stop sneezing," one alien gasped between sneezes that echoed inside his helmet. But Tommy had saved the best for last. As the aliens stumbled around, sneezing and covered in hair dye, they stepped on pressure plates made from old skateboard parts. Suddenly, his collection of remote-controlled cars zoomed out from under bushes, each carrying a balloon filled with honey and feathers. Pop, pop, pop. The balloons burst against the aliens' legs, covering their lower armor in sticky honey. Then the feathers flew everywhere, making them look like giant, colorful, sneezing chickens. "What kind of warfare is this?" the patrol leader screamed, trying to wipe honey off his visor, but only smearing it worse. From his command ship, Commander Gray watched in horror as his soldiers hopped around, covered in feathers, sneezing, and trailing different colors of hair dye. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "the other ships are asking why our soldiers look like something called party piñatas." Tommy collected his video camera, making sure he had recorded everything. The aliens weren't the only ones documenting their battles. He had learned from watching nature shows that the best way to study your opponent was to record their behavior. "They keep thinking like soldiers," Tommy said to himself, packing up his supplies. "But sometimes you have to think like a kid." Back in the ship, Commander Gray received more disturbing news. His soldiers' expensive armor was now permanently dyed in rainbow colors. The sneezing powder had gotten into their air filters. And worst of all, the honey had hardened in their joints, making them walk like rusty robots. "How?" he demanded. "How is a child defeating our best warriors?" Tommy looked at his notebook, checking off another successful plan. Tomorrow would be even better. He had just remembered the chemistry set his uncle gave him for his birthday, and he had some interesting ideas about mixing colors and smells. The aliens wanted war. He would give them something much worse: the full imagination of a 10-year-old boy with too many toys and too much free time. News of the mysterious defenders spread through the alien fleet like wildfire. Each ship received reports of soldiers returning in strange conditions, some glowing in the dark from luminescent paint, others smelling like a mixture of rotten eggs and bubble gum, and a few speaking in high-pitched voices after breathing helium from Tommy's birthday balloons. In the mess hall of the main ship, soldiers shared their stories in whispered voices. "I heard it's an advanced AI," one alien said, still picking glitter out of his armor joints. "No, no," another argued, his usually green skin now tie-dyed purple and orange. "It must be a secret military weapon. No normal being could be this creative and causing chaos." Commander Gray sat in his private quarters, studying all the footage. His wall of screens showed Tommy's traps from different angles, but the child himself remained elusive, always one step ahead. "What are we missing?" he muttered, watching a replay of his soldiers falling into a pit filled with jello and rubber ducks. Meanwhile, Tommy had turned his entire backyard into what he called his super-ultra-mega trap paradise. He had spent all morning connecting garden hoses to create a sprinkler maze, filling old pillowcases with a mix of cornstarch and water to make instant quicksand, and setting up his sister's disco ball to blind alien sensors. "Tommy," his mom called from inside. "Have you seen my cleaning supplies? And why is your father's tool shed empty?" "Just borrowing them for science, Mom," Tommy shouted back, carefully adjusting a tripwire made from his mom's yarn collection. His parents remained amazingly oblivious to the alien invasion. They thought the strange lights and sounds were from a movie being filmed nearby, and the colored soldiers running around were just people in costumes. In the alien fleet, morale hit rock bottom. Soldiers began making excuses to avoid patrol duty. "Sir," one officer reported to Commander Gray, "Unit 7 claims they're allergic to glitter. Unit 12 says they have PTSD from something called silly string. And Unit 15 is convinced the human child can turn invisible. Impossible." Commander Gray slammed his fist down. "Show them the surveillance footage. It's just a small human with simple tools." The officer nervously played the latest video. It showed a group of soldiers approaching Tommy's yard confidently, only to end up trapped in an elaborate sequence involving skateboards, marbles, and what appeared to be every bottle of shampoo and soap from the house. "Our scientists can't explain it," the officer said. "The child uses no advanced technology, no weapons, just everyday items in ways we never imagined possible." Tommy sat in his treehouse, drawing new trap designs in his notebook. He had labeled this page Operation Stinky Sparkly Surprise. His collection of stink bombs, combined with his sister's entire supply of bath bombs and perfume, would give the aliens a smell they'd never forget. "They think too complicated," Tommy said to himself, mixing baking soda and vinegar in a large bucket. "Sometimes the simple stuff works best." In the command ship, Commander Gray received a message that made his blood run cold. The Supreme Commander of the Dominion Fleet wanted answers about why Earth's invasion was taking so long. "Tell them." Commander Gray paused, watching another patrol fall victim to what appeared to be a combination of soapy water, marbles, and something called a poopy cushion. "Tell them we're facing an enemy unlike any we've encountered before. An enemy who doesn't follow the rules of warfare, who turns our advanced technology against us using methods we can't understand or predict." On Earth, Tommy finished setting up his latest creation. He called it the Super Soaker 3000, a network of water balloons, garden sprinklers, and his sister's bubble machines, all connected to create the ultimate alien soaking system. The legend of the mysterious defender grew. Some aliens claimed they heard children's laughter in their nightmares. Others swore they saw toys moving on their own. But all of them agreed on one thing: Earth was proving to be far more terrifying than anyone had expected. Commander Gray had finally reached his limit. After 5 days of humiliation, with hundreds of soldiers covered in glitter, dye, and strange smells, he made his final decision. "Send in everyone," he ordered, his voice shaking with anger. "Every soldier, every vehicle. I want that child captured, and this area secured. No more games." Tommy watched through his binoculars as over 300 alien soldiers marched toward his house. They had tanks, flying machines, and weapons he had only seen in video games. This was it, the big battle he had been preparing for. "Time for the Super Mega Ultra Combo Trap," he whispered, pulling out his remote control. The aliens moved forward in perfect formation, their boots making metallic sounds on the ground. They had learned from their mistakes. Every soldier wore triple-sealed armor. Their sensors were covered with special filters. They even walked with their weapons pointed at the trees, watching for any sign of Tommy. "No sign of the human child," one soldier reported. "Area appears cool." That's when Tommy pressed the first button. The sprinkler system came alive, but instead of water, it sprayed a mixture of sticky soda and maple syrup. The aliens' fancy boots stuck to the ground, making them wobble like penguins on roller skates. "Don't stop," Commander Gray shouted from his hovering command platform. "Push forward." Tommy pressed the second button. His dad's leaf blower, combined with 3 bags of flour and his entire collection of rainbow glitter, created a storm that would make a unicorn jealous. The aliens' visual sensors were instantly covered. "We're blind," someone screamed. Not again with the glitter. But this was just the beginning. As the aliens stumbled around, they triggered dozens of tripwires. Each wire released something different. Water balloons filled with neon paint, clouds of baby powder mixed with sneezing powder, and his masterstroke. Every bottle of his mom's perfume sprayed at once. "My nose filters," a soldier cried. "They can't handle this many smells." The aliens' advanced technology began to malfunction. Their suits, designed to resist laser blasts, had no defense against the combination of sticky soda, glitter, and perfume. Their sensors, made to detect energy weapons, were overwhelmed by the simple chaos of color and sound. Tommy wasn't done. He pressed the final button. Every radio-controlled car and toy robot he owned zoomed out from hidden spots, each carrying something different. Some had water guns filled with liquid soap. Others dragged long strings that wrapped around the aliens' legs. A few just drove in circles, making annoying beeping sounds. "This is impossible," Commander Gray shouted, watching his army fall apart. "How can one child?" He never finished. Tommy's last trap, inspired by watching bowling videos, used his marble collection and the sloped ground to create a chain reaction. Aliens fell like dominoes, crashing into each other, their fancy armor now a rainbow mess of paint, glitter, and sticky substances. From his treehouse command center, Tommy recorded everything on his video camera. His mom would never believe where all her cleaning supplies had gone, but this was totally worth it. The alien army broke. Soldiers ran in every direction, slipping and sliding, covered in substances their advanced science couldn't identify. Some cried about the smells that got through their filters. Others tried to shake off the glitter, but only made it worse. "Retreat," Commander Gray finally ordered, his own command platform covered in so much glitter it looked like a disco ball. Full retreat. Tommy watched as the mighty alien army ran away from a 10-year-old boy's toy collection and household supplies. He couldn't help but smile as he checked his notebook, where he had written his battle plan titled Operation Sparkly Doom. As the aliens fled, their perfect formation now a chaos of colors and sounds, one soldier was heard screaming, "I don't care if they demote me. I'm never fighting human children again." The mighty Dominion fleet, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, had met its match in a kid with too many toys and a really good imagination. The morning after the great battle, Tommy's yard looked like a rainbow had exploded. Glitter covered everything. Puddles of colored water dotted the grass, and the air still smelled like a mixture of perfume and stink bombs. But the aliens were gone. In orbit above Earth, the Supreme Commander of the Dominion Fleet watched the battle recordings with a mix of horror and disbelief. "Let me understand this clearly," the Supreme Commander said, his voice echoing through the command room. "Our entire invasion force was defeated by a human child, using toys." Commander Gray stood before his leader, his once proud armor still sparkling with glitter that wouldn't come off. "Supreme Commander, you don't understand. This was no ordinary child. This was something else." On their main screen, they watched Tommy's final battle from multiple angles. The Supreme Commander's eyes widened as he saw his elite forces falling to water balloons, toy cars, and something called slime. "Our scientists have studied the substances used against us," an officer reported, holding up a sample jar full of glitter. "We still can't remove it from our equipment. 3 ships are permanently sparkly, and 1 crew refuses to leave their ship because they're still sneezing rainbow colors." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Tommy sat at his kitchen table eating breakfast. His mom was looking around the house confused. "Tommy," she said, checking empty cabinets, "have you seen all my cleaning supplies? And why is there glitter everywhere?" "I was doing a science project, Mom," Tommy answered, hiding his smile behind his cereal bowl. About chemical reactions and stuff. Outside, government vehicles began arriving in the town. They had detected the alien ships, but by the time they reached Pine Valley, they found only strange markings in the fields and massive amounts of glitter. In space, the Supreme Commander made his decision. "Order all forces to withdraw," he announced. "Mark this planet as extremely dangerous. Do not approach." Add a special note. Warning: human children are not to be engaged under any circumstances. Commander Gray nodded quickly. "Should I include the footage of our defeat in the military archives?" "No," the Supreme Commander shouted. "No one must ever know that the mighty Dominion fleet was defeated by soap bubbles and toy cars. We will say we found Earth, unsuitable for conquest." As the alien ships disappeared from Earth's skies, Tommy finished documenting everything in his notebook. He had recorded all his traps, taken pictures, and even saved some glitter-covered alien equipment as souvenirs. "Maybe next time they'll think twice before invading someone's backyard," he said to himself, closing his alien defense journal. News spread through the galaxy. Whispered stories of Earth's terrifying defenders grew with each retelling. Some said human children could turn invisible. Others claimed they had magical powers that could turn mighty warriors into sneezing, colorful messes. The Dominion fleet never returned to Earth. Other alien races heard the rumors and stayed away. No one wanted to risk facing the mysterious warriors who had defeated the galaxy's strongest army with nothing but toys and cleaning supplies. Years later, alien children would be told bedtime stories about the terrifying human child who brought down an army with glitter and joy. Parents would warn their kids, "Be good, or we'll send you to Earth, where the children play with weapons we can't understand." Tommy grew up keeping his adventures secret. Sometimes on quiet nights, he would open his old notebook and smile at the pictures of glitter-covered alien soldiers running from his toys. He kept a jar of glitter on his desk as a reminder, just in case they ever came back. In the far reaches of space, the Dominion fleet had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a child with imagination, access to household supplies, and too much free time on their hands. And somewhere in the galaxy, there's still a Dominion ship that sparkles in the starlight, its crew occasionally sneezing rainbow colors, remembering the day they learned that sometimes the smallest defenders can be the most terrifying of all. The end.